I'm Chris McDonough, a retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Aloha, everybody, and welcome this evening to the interview room. And Steve, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, Chris. It's great to be here.
It's great having you here. If you're new to us, we want to welcome each and every one of you to our channel here at the interview room. And we're grateful to all of our mods, Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Four Sons Mom, Melissa Hart, and soon Miss TJ. So we're going to hopefully get you wrenched here in a little bit. So we're starting to grow, and we're starting to get good people. We absolutely love our mods. Big shout out to our members and to our subs. If you're new here, please subscribe if you feel so inclined. And as we like to say, take a seat. The fact that you're here is enough for us. We're grateful. So tonight we're going to be doing part 2 of my phone interview with Don Wells, the father of Summer Wells, the 5-year-old missing girl since June 15th. I want to reiterate to everybody tonight that, Don called me, and he spoke voluntarily on the phone. Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson has said that everything is still on the table. Everybody is still a person of interest, quote unquote. However, I want to reiterate that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And that means there's probably a lot of moving parts in this investigation. So I'm not working on behalf of TBI, nor have I said I was. I have, however, turned over everything to TBI voluntarily for their review. I do know Dave Roush, who is the director of TBI. I have met him many times, and we are friends, but Dave did not direct me, nor has anybody at TBI to volunteer to search for Summer Wells. Everything we discussed here tonight is my opinion, and I know that I'll let Steve, reiterate that it's, his opinion, and so I want to keep an eye on some of the comments and some of the things that are going around, this crazy world in space, okay? If you have any questions about me or my integrity or about my motive, those links are down below, and my bio is upstairs, okay? So with me tonight, oh, by the way, one other last thing. If you're here to bash someone, I just want to give you a heads up. You're going to be, kicked into outer space. Okay, that's not why we're here. We like to keep things classy with the welcome mat, and everybody is here, and they're all allowed to be here. Different opinions are good for all of us. It does create colorful debate, and our family here at the interview room, we love a good conversation, but we also like to be respectful to one another because this is an active, fluid investigation by, many, many law enforcement agencies throughout the state of Tennessee. And quite frankly, it's not helpful and or productive for little Summer, who's been missing now, almost, 60 days coming up here. So let's have a seat and have a civil discussion. With us tonight, again, for part 2, is my dear friend Steve Johnson, who is an expert in forensic statement analysis and forensic handwriting analysis, to just to name a couple of things. He spent over almost 30 years in law enforcement. He trains not only on the national level, but international level, not only law enforcement, but the public sector, from Fortune 500 companies to large police agencies to small police agencies. When they have a question about words and what they mean, the meaning behind those words, well, that's when his phone rings. So law enforcement has been utilizing him. In fact, you even had a class today or a meeting today with a lot of skilled people. And they, quite frankly, they talked about your first day here, the last statement. Am I right, Steve?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. The group I met with today is my advanced class. It's a certification group. There was probably about 20, 21, 22 people in that group today, out of about 40 that are enrolled, and they are fantastic. They are I can't tell you how skilled they are. Some are certified analysts, others are obtaining their certification, others they're right there. I just haven't handed them the certificate yet. And so we went over this statement today. We went over the Don Wells statement, and I'm telling you what I'm going to tell you tonight is what they came up with in our group analysis today. And let me just tell you that doing an analysis, breaking things down as a group is so beneficial. Just like you've seen when you've had a complete panel here with Greg Cooper and Dean Jackson and I, when we're all together, we have all these different points of view. Same thing happens when we bring all these analysts in, and these analysts are from all over the country, and soon we'll have some from the UK as well, and they all have different life experiences and perspectives, and I tell you what, it is fantastic when we put all that together. So anyway, yeah, I'm really excited to show you what they came up with today, and that they were just spot on. It's really exciting to watch that process play out when you start understanding on a deep level, which is called linguistic empathy. You understand on a deep level what is going on inside Don's head, what produced the words that he said at the time he said them and the way he said them. When you understand that on that deep level, I tell you what, it's just, Chris, you're literally inside their brain, and that's the beauty of this, is you're literally crawling up inside their mind and understanding what's going on. And sometimes, it's always a good thing on the justice level. On the other side of things, it can get a little messy. There's times that we just think, I just feel gross. I feel, man, I understand this guy so much that I just feel like I need to go wash off. I need to go take a shower. And, that's just the way it is. And that's the nature of our business, obviously. But I tell you, it's very, very effective. And when we apply the principles, there's nothing better.
Well, I can't wait, because number one, I know your integrity, and I always feel like I'm, getting in the back seat of one of the Blue Angels, whenever you're around. So I'm going to we're going to go through this, and we're going to try to get as much as we can here tonight. But I know you guys your team has been sitting down on this and, driving into it. So I want to tell everybody up front, thank you right from the get-go. We appreciate all the consideration, but that's not what's important here. Summer Wells is important here tonight. And so at the end, we're going to have a little time for Q&A. So let's see how far we can get through this. And so, Steve, what I'm going to do is, if I can get my mouse to work here. Here it is. So I'm going to start off at about the 1446 mark. Sound good to you? Where Don says, I know, a lot of people. And so we just went down about 3 minutes to get to this place from where we left off on the last one. Are you good with that?
Yeah. Do you care if I point out some things just for people that
Sure. Please give us a recap.
Maybe missed the last one?
Sure, absolutely.
Just some things that we saw in the first part of his statement. And so obviously I'm not going to show you the exact words. I'll just tell you the bullet points. Number one is that so far Don has not denied, even though he said that everyone is looking at he and Candace, he has not denied that he had anything to do with Summer's disappearance. That's a big deal. So that is something, if you did not do it, then you won't own that. You will immediately shed that, and he hasn't done that. So he's accepted that. The other thing is, he has, if you saw the interview that he did with the media and the interview that he did with Chris, he has expressed linguistically that he immediately processed the worst case scenario, that Summer is taken far, far away, that she's gone. There's this finality in his voice, and he's thrown out multiple scenarios, including that she's abducted and that she possibly dead. Another bullet point, he's inferring that the police are not to be trusted, that he doesn't trust them, and that they are responsible for removing data from his phone, Candace's phone, and his mother-in-law's phone from about the 3:30 mark, I think he said, on that day. And so he's now casting blame towards the police, and that's not a good thing.
We're seeing how that's working out for the other guy in Colorado.
Yeah, for sure. And that it's that, and Chris will tell you from numerous cases, that's a very common thing. We see that a lot. That when they don't know where to go, they'll try to denigrate and cast blame on the investigators, and so it's some other dude. And actually, at this time, it's some other investigator. It's their fault. So very common. What were you going to? Are you going to say something, Chris, about that?
No. I was. I'm waiting for when you say go. I'm
okay.
I'm glued.
So another thing, he's throwing out all these possibilities. He's making up. I shouldn't say he's throwing out just a ton of scenarios, and I like it when we ask a parent in this type of situation, hey, what do you think happened? I like it when they say, well, you know what? My first thought is, boom, and they tell me what their first thought is, and back it up, and they have a solid reason for it. What I don't like is when they throw out a possibility, but there's no foundation for it. Instead, there's narrative building and alibi building and laying groundwork for how that could work. If you have to explain why that could be and lay the foundation, and pave the way as to why that could be the case, then it loses all credibility and it actually goes south. It goes the other way. So now it gives all the it puts check marks in the negative section, that he might be not telling the truth about that. And that's what we have here with Don. One of those scenarios was that Summer was abducted. And the only way for that to happen was that those dogs had to be off the property, because there's, 13 dogs, I believe?
There were 13 there when I was there. 13.
And they bark. Everyone has said those dogs bark every time someone comes up the driveway. They prowl all the land that they're on, and they know when somebody is on that property that shouldn't be there. And so, in order for her to be abducted, those dogs would not have to be there. And he went to great lengths to explain what the dogs normally do, how they're stupid, how they're dumb, and how this, because of what they normally do, that they couldn't have been there that day. And I'm telling you what, it's like a needle in a haystack. We'd be more lucky to have a lightning strike, I think.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I absolutely can't disagree. And so a couple other folks here in the chat are saying that they can't see the screen. So fix your pixel, do a higher resolution, and then the clarity should come up on your stream there. So are you ready to get into this, Steve? We can rock and roll on this, shall we? All right, so let me get over here. And whoops, hang on. I gotta get down here. There we go, right here. Okay, so we'll go right from here.
What's her name?
Michelle and some friends, but it'd probably be better if I contacted them and give them your number. But I'm trying to bring all this stuff to light because I don't know what police are doing. I don't know what TBI is doing.
Sure.
I know a lot of people talk a big talk, and then they come out here and they're just worried about their own agenda. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's what you were saying about me.
Yeah, and if I'm wrong, I apologize to you. Okay.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I don't take anything personal. I
appreciate that.
So I have a question though. Let's go back to the day, okay?
Yes. Yes.
Unpack that day for me. When did you leave for work? And then when the 911 or when you
I left early that morning. Summer was by my side, and I left for work. And I worked all day, and then I called her at some point. I guess when she was in Walgreens, I says, "Well, what are you doing?" And so she said something about taking them out to the lake or whatever. And I thought, well, hell, I might as well just work late because there's no point in me going home. They're out doing their thing, and I might as well just stay late and do what I can. And then, my boss come by and make fun of me. She's about my car. She said, I was using that brand new car for drywall. Giving me a hard time about that.
Hold up, Chris.
now you said
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go backwards here. Let's talk about the car first because that's the last thing that we heard.
Okay.
There's something about this car, and I don't understand yet what it is, but when you go do drywall work, that is messy business, and to put your drywall tools and everything in a new car. I don't know if this was new, but it was new to him, I guess. And I guess he said it's a brand new car. So it's just there's something weird about that. You don't use a brand new car for drywall work. If you guys don't know, that's a dirty, messy job. I'm going to skip back up to when he said, Chris, you asked him, when did you leave for work? And then when the 911 and then he interrupted and he said, I left early that morning. Okay, so he answered your question. And then after answering your question, he added this, which in context has nothing to do with the question that you asked. He said, Summer was by my side and I left for work. So what my team and I asked was, why would he include Summer was by my side and I left for work, instead of saying I left early that morning at whatever time it was, and then be done with it? He answered the question, but his brain went somewhere else. You focused him on that morning, and so he told you not only that he left answering the question, but his mind has now gone back to the most important thing. Summer was by my side and I left for work. Now, the argument is that, well, we're talking about Summer. Summer's the one that's gone. And so he's remembering that Summer was there by his side. That's a good thing. That's a good thing for a parent to remember. The problem is that there's an indication here when he says I left for work, instead of saying I went to work, his brain has paused there at the point of departure, which is his home. Summer was by my side. There's missing information there. That's what that indicates. His brain paused. Instead of moving forward to work, his brain paused right there. And so now what I want to know is, okay, is this critical information, or is it just that he's sentimental about Summer? And by the way, there hasn't been any sentiment about Summer. His emotions have not risen to that level that we would expect of a parent. And in fact, it's kind of been the opposite. He's focused more on his own emotion than emotion about Summer. And so I'm on high alert now. So now I know I have missing information that's related to Summer being in bed with him. And I know that it's bad because it's from what's going to come next. You ask him, tell me about Summer being by your side. And he says, well, she slept next to me. So I know that this missing information is related to Summer being in bed with him. Okay, and I'll come back to that. Now he says, and now I worked all day. And then I called her at some point, I guess, when she was in Walgreens. I said, well, what are you doing? She said something about taking them up to the lake. So, okay, he's giving you details of his day. This is extra information.
That's Candace. He's calling Candace.
That's Candace.
Right.
And why is he adding this in here? Well, here it comes. She says something about taking them up to the, well, then I thought, hell, I might as well just work late. Because there's a reason why there's no point in me going home. And he gives another reason why. Well, he doubles up on this. They're out doing their thing. That's why. And when they do that, they give you a reason for doing something that you didn't ask him about. That he's now told me that this is a sensitive area to him. Now I'm on high alert as to why he wants to create this alibi that he was at work. And I want to know now, was he at work all day? Did he leave work early? Did he work late? I want to know. This needs to be verified for me because there's something sensitive about that, about working late. He just pointed it out. So that might come up later on, that he might answer the question for me, but I know that there's sensitivity. He's creating this. He wants to make sure that you knew that he was at work all that day. And so we'll pick that up a little bit more coming up.
Okay, interesting. And remember, we talked about, he would probably be adapting day to day, especially after the last video we just did. Yeah. Well, he has. He's found some outlets, and he's adapting correctly. But I'm paying attention, and we'll just keep staying as we stay. And what other is interesting thing here? So I had a theory, and it's just a theory, right? It's a working theory, that what if something happened, right, at the property or whatever, hypothetically, and what if they were both there, and then, they got to hatch this. We got to get the cops moving. So he goes to his job site. She's at the house, hypothetically, makes the 911 call. He makes a 911 call and then comes back, and that's why he took the red car. Mm-hmm. Because typically, right, to your point, if you're doing drywall and you've always, have the white truck, and his boss even comes over and teases him about having the red car, okay? So that's, that just doesn't, that's DLR, right? As we call it, doesn't look right. And it doesn't sound right, DSR. Okay? So now it could be true, I don't know yet personally. And I know that you have, your radar is up, pretty high. So anyway, let's keep moving. And by the way, for the folks that have been asking, I feel great. I had my second shot. I'm looking good. So get vaccinated. All right, here we go. You ready?
Let's go.
All right, bud.
said Summer was by your side. What does that mean?
She was asleep by my side when I woke up.
Okay, got it. And
Yeah,
what time was that approximately?
I'd say about 7,
Okay.
maybe earlier, 6:30 or 7, somewhere in there.
Okay, and
Yeah, she had to be by me. She just had to be by me.
that's her personality.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, she loves me to death. I could say just one harsh word to her and she would break down. I'd have to apologize for it to her 10 times over.
Right.
Hold up, Chris. All right. All right.
I know where you're headed. But it's gotta, it is what it is.
So this is disturbing. So this ties into that missing information that I said is related to Summer being in bed by his side before he left for work. Okay, he's left out information. Now he says she was asleep by my side when I woke up. He put timing in there, and it infers that she was by his side at other times, prior to him waking up. And I'm going to leave that alone for just a second. She had to be by me. She just had to be by me. This is a indication that of a control, a controlled bonding. This is what we see in groomers, and it worries me. And I'll show you why I'm going here, because there's more. Then he says, "Yeah, she loves me to death." So he is saying, "I'm the good parent. I'm the one that she loves." And anyone that might be having a problem with that later on, and I think it's later on, it's either later on or something that we did last time. He mentioned that she had a hard time bonding with Candace.
Yep,
That for the first, I don't remember how long it was that she wouldn't bond with Candace, but she bonded with him. Okay,
Yep.
That's typical. That fits the profile of a groomer, and a groomer will then, with a spouse or significant other, they often use them as well, and they'll shame them. They use the shaming technique and everything, and it gets a little deep, but this fits the profile. So then he says, "I can say just one harsh word to her and she would break." He put a number on the word, on the harsh word. It indicates to me that there have been more than one harsh word said to Summer. This is also fits the profile, and then he said this in association with Summer breaking down. And so it tells me that there were a lot of harsh words in this relationship. I still have that he's insinuating this closeness to her. There's an insinuation of fear, and she would break down. And that's physical. And then he says, "I have to apologize to her 10 times over." That's more of the grooming. And it's so when you might hear this, a groomer would be typically apologizing, "Baby, I'm sorry, I have to do this. If you hadn't climbed in bed with me or said this or done that or whatever, I wouldn't have to do this." And they apologize many times over. And
Yeah, you want to hear something pretty interesting?
ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, perfect.
So his sister was on another YouTube channel, Unmasked, last night. And this is his biological sister. And by the way, I have interviewed his stepsister at length, almost 3.5 hours one day. And I'm not going to play that out of respect for that victim. But what was interesting, right to cue, is Don called her last night apologizing and trying to get her to, basically shut it down. And so, to your point, I don't know if that's target acquisition or if, he's just so used to, kind of covering every time he hears a scenario, he immediately jumps on top of, the victim. And by the way, for her, the Jeannie, his stepsister, she told me one night when I think she was either 11 or 12. Well, it was in that time frame. I have to listen to her statement again, but she had a girlfriend over. They were doing a sleepover, and the girlfriend was in the bunk bed below. And in the middle of the night, he came in and molested her as well. And when they woke up in the morning, they just kind of did one of the awkward stares to each other in terms of the two girls. That's the other girl, I think, that he mentions later on in this tape. Okay? And so, we'll get into that later on because I'm going to do a whole show on, grooming and, that problem. And we'll do that, going down the line here. But I don't want to break up your train of thought, Steve, so I apologize. So
No, that's perfect. In fact, you said that at the perfect time because that's pretty much what I was going to say about that. This is just fits the groomer profile. They break their victims down and they create this bond with them, and that's what he had. And from an early age, he started creating this bond with Summer. And so, he says that, did we already say it? I don't remember. Maybe it's coming up that, Summer's been sleeping in his beds from day one.
That's coming up. So I'm going to go back up here and play it through that. You tell me when to stop again, bud.
Sounds good.
All right. Let me get
Yeah, she loves me to death. I could say just one harsh word to her and she would break down. I'd have to apologize to her 10 times.
Now, the fact that he has an emphasis on the word break, does that mean anything to you or anything?
Yeah. Number one, it's he's trying to convince. It's like if he was handwriting this, it's like putting that a capital at the word break or putting it all in caps. It doesn't matter if it's all in caps or he just puts the B in cap where it doesn't belong. He's emphasizing it. And there's a couple things going on there. It's a convincing thing that she would break down. He's trying to convince that it's because he said a harsh word to her. But out of all the things that he could say, he chose that word break. Why didn't he just say she would start crying? Something like that. He chose the word break, and that's called brain leakage. The brain will reach out and it'll pick out words that's associated with other thoughts going on at that time in his brain. He's making this statement based on everything that he has going on in his head at the same time. And it will pick words that correlate with all these different things that are going on. They're all in these little rooms in his head, and it'll pick out a word that correlates to all of them. And that's one of those. That's how we see that. We call it brain leakage. So, yeah, significant. Okay. I always highlight words like that: break, hit, anything like that.
Okay, and I think Mary is his stepsister. I think I may have misspoken there as I think about it. So, but Jeannie is his stepsister as well. So, and by the way, as a guy who's done this for a couple of weekends, I have no reason. And by the way, I also want to be sensitive to some of you folks out there who are listening. Forgive us if this is tough for you. I understand. And so I want to be considerate of your feelings in the chat as well. I know this is very difficult to listen to.
Definitely.
So I just want to give you a heads up. If it is too difficult, please come back, watch it at another time or not. It's completely up to you. But I just also want to be sensitive to, this is a very difficult essay conversation here. So, and I would believe you as well, just for the record. So I'm going to keep moving. Okay, Steve?
Let's do it.
Okay.
It's over.
Right.
I mean, it just kills me that she's gone. I literally.
Her room was right next door to
Hey,
yours.
hold
too.
up, Chris.
Yep.
Before we move on, this is just a short little comment here, but this is a convincing statement right here. I mean, it just kills me that she's gone, and that wasn't strong enough that he had to add in that word literally. There's an old adage that words that end in ly are a lie, and that's certainly not always the case, but we find that is true in a lot of different scenarios. And for me personally, when they add in these qualifying words like literally, he's convincing. It wasn't strong enough to just say, it just kills me that she's gone. He had to convince us by saying literally. And so for me, the credibility of that, the commitment to that just came down several notches. So
How about where he says, I loved her to death?
Yeah, I always worry about that kind of stuff he says, because we have a lot of this death. It just kills me. It worries me to death. Or he said the death, I don't know how many times up to this point, but I always worry about those. And I always highlight those because it's definitely tells me that is on his mind. And it's very similar to, I know we're not doing Candace's statement, but in that media statement that she gave, she said she's trying to say how much, it bothers her that Summer's gone. And she said, it just smothers me. I'm like, where in the world did that come from? How did she pick that word out? Smothers me. And I was on high alert right then when I heard that. That is one of those words that a parent just wouldn't use when you're talking about your 5-year-old daughter being gone. So anyway, definitely those are words that give the thought process away.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, and we tried to make her sleep in her own bed, and she'd come to me with big tears in her eyes and say, "But Daddy, I want to sleep with you. I want to be with you." And I couldn't say no. I just couldn't.
And how long has she been doing that?
You can't pass this up.
No, I'm not.
This is more of the sex abuse. This adds to the mountain of evidence that we're starting to build here. He's building it. We're not. He's building it.
Say SA. Just say SA for our viewers, because there are rules in YouTube. So
right on.
Be careful. Yep.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So he says she'd come to me. Okay, so he says, we've tried and tried to make her sleep in her own bed. And so when they say that they've tried, all right, tried and tried, he doubled up on it, his overemphasis that they've tried to make her sleep. It's good enough to just say we've tried over and over again to make her sleep in her own bed, but we've tried and tried. It takes away from it. And then he says, and she'd come to me. He's now, the onus is on Summer, okay? Not him as the adult. The onus is on a 5-year-old girl. She'd come to me with big tears in her eyes. And then he quotes, "But Daddy, I want to sleep with you." Okay? I'd have felt a little better about that if he stopped right there. But now he says that he's quoting Summer still, "I want to be with you." And that goes back, that is terminology that's more socially or closely associated with the essay. He says, I couldn't say no. It puts the onus on Summer. It takes it off of him, her fault. That is a typical profile of a groomer. It's never him. It's always her. They love me so much. And it, by the way, it's a sick, twisted love in their mind, but that's the way they see it, that it's a love affair. And it's all on them, and that he just couldn't say no.
Yeah, 100%. Ready?
Yep, let's go.
For 5 years.
Wow.
All of her life.
Every night?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Now, I thought that was an interesting correlation. You know, because he's dropping 5 years, and his stepsister, it started at 5. And, you know, it lasted 7 years. But this may be, you know, his victimology here.
Right.
In his fantasies. So
Absolutely.
I qualified him by saying, well, that's a bond. You know.
Yeah.
That's a bond.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and he bought it. And, you know,
Exactly.
I knew what you're doing there. I know what's probably going through your mind. You're probably thinking, wow, this dude's pretty sick. But you did the right thing, and you kept the integrity of the conversation, and you said that's a bond. And you're right, it is a bond. It was a bond. It's just a sick bond. It's a twisted bond. But you're right, it's a bond, and to him, it's a good thing. To us, we know that it's a sick and twisted thing.
Yeah, I mean, even if, you know, there's no connection to, you know, the disappearance of her, hypothetically, okay, this is a problem.
Yes.
This is a major problem. And I think anybody, well, your class, I'm sure your class measured this out, but we'll get to that as we keep moving. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Wow. And so walk me through it. What time do you get up, and what do you remember last about seeing Summer?
All I remember is when I woke up is her feet and her foot being under me, kind of, you know. I remember her being there, and I covered her up a little bit or whatever and left, and she slipped right between me and Mom.
Because this is he gives a kind of a long answer here, so I want to break this up a little bit. And again, and I'm going to try and stay out of the weeds of things, but if I just want to point out how significant, how this builds. This is coming out of his brain to his tongue, and he's building this for us, and we're just calling it the way it is. I love the question you asked. What do you remember last about seeing Summer? And Chris, you referred last time to a very personal incident where you lost your son, and that time, that moment was frozen. It's locked in for you. Your last conversation with him is locked in for you. It's a very cherished memory, and you all those last little points, they're solid. You'll never leave your brain. And so you asked, what do you last remember about seeing Summer? He says, all I remember is, which tells me when I hear this, it's an indication there's more that I know more than I want to tell you. When they say, all I remember is, those last moments with Summer would be cherished memories, and he's not wanting to tell us that. So when they say that, it tells me he knows more than what he's wanting to tell us. So he says, all I remember, go ahead.
And he went intimate, skin to skin.
Yes, exactly. That's where it went. And that is so wrong. All I remember is when I woke up is her feet and her foot being under me, kind of, you know? He says, I remember being there, and I covered her up a little bit or whatever and left. Now, what's going on here is another indication that there's missing information. He's leaving critical information out, and it is associated with, you nailed it, skin to skin, and he's lost in that moment right there. Her feet, and then he says her foot. Why the need to? It's like he can't get out of that. Yeah, what is it? Was it her feet or her foot? And for him, this is like this is movement. Sometimes, when you're snuggling up next to someone and their feet are right there, and then there's a little bit of movement, and then it's the foot. Chris, he's lost in the moment. He's lost in the moment right there.
And what's interesting here, he's not introducing Candace into this snuggle time, for lack of a better term. Right. Moms throughout the centuries have slept with their children.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's just a mother's bond. Okay.
Yeah.
I've raised 4 kids, and I've had our kids come into the room. Okay. But I've never slept with my daughter underneath me, or
right.
or her underneath me, and 4 or 5 years. Okay, every single night.
Every night, right?
Yeah, and if that doesn't concern people, okay, then you folks need to get checked, because guys like me and Steve and others, okay, well, we're coming at some point, because this is about a 5-year-old missing little girl, and this is very relevant to the big picture.
Yeah.
Here it's very relevant in my mind, to protect these babies, 100%, and the fact that later on, and what he didn't know, I'd already interviewed his stepsister. And he would come in the room every single night while she was sleeping and essay her. And so the fact that he bonded in this conversation, in my opinion, is a huge red flag. And that is a bingo card for 50.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm going to double that one right there. Yeah.
So we had 100 the other night and another 100 tonight.
Yeah.
So we're almost getting to 1,000.
Yeah.
All right. So I remember being there, and I covered her up a little bit or whatever and left.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah. It's not. So it's something else. It's or whatever. It's missing information. He didn't say I covered her up and went to work. No, my brain is paused at that point of departure. I covered her up a little bit or whatever. That's something else, Chris, that he's not wanting to tell us. His brain is paused there and left, instead of saying moving forward, I went to work. So it's not what he's trying to, he wants you to interpret. He wants you to interpret that he covered her up and went to work, but that's not what happened. There was something else that went on there, and he just doesn't want to tell you. That's what it tells us.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put something out in the environment tonight, okay? And we'll see how many people take it. I kick myself that I didn't ask him what was she wearing. Okay?
Yeah.
I made a mistake. Okay? But I'm going to make a prediction right now. He's going to tell us what she was wearing after tonight. Or his friends are going to tell us what she was wearing. Okay? But nobody knows what she was wearing other than him at whatever time he left in the morning. Okay? So I can't wait for that to come into play here. Okay? And then when you guys see that, okay, then you make a determination on whether or not that sounds, like problematic. All right, I'm going to keep moving for the sake of time.
Let's do it.
Every night,
Right.
I mean, every night. I mean, why pick every night? I mean, Steve?
Why say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's his reality, and for him, it's not a negative thing. For him, it's the normal thing. And speaking of normal, he does a lot of that. He normalizes a lot within his language, and is, in fact, we're going to have that coming up here just in the next sentence or two. He's going to say it was just I went to work, just a normal day. When they do that, what that means is they want you to believe that because that is the norm, nothing else occurred that was not normal for every other day, or that it was a normal circumstance. It's an indication to us that it was anything but the norm. It allows them to withhold what actually was occurring that day by saying it was just a normal day, and people buy it, and you shouldn't buy it. Well, tell me exactly, describe that for me. Describe that in detail. And, that's going to be a different story, because it's not the norm. Okay. Now, if you say describe it in detail, and then they start describing in present tense, well, this is what we normally do. No. Describe what you did that day, past tense. And that's what we're looking for with him being psychologically in the statement. And so anyway, that's another lesson, another time, but he's going to normalize a lot of things here.
Okay, and what I've also found interesting, Steve, the correlation when I asked his stepsister how often would this happen, her answer, every night.
Oh my gosh.
Every night.
Yeah.
Okay. Every night.
That's his victimology. That's who he is.
Yep.
And it's playing out here.
Yep. Okay, here we go.
But I just went to work, normal day. Luckily, I guess that a couple of guys I talked to that day, and the big boss that seen me that day knows where I was. And it wasn't 30 minutes, 40 minutes after Jamie left. From we sit there and talk for 30 minutes, just sit there and talk,
Now,
But after he left,
okay.
Jamie's he's another finisher that was working out here.
Got it. So you leave the house. What car do you take that day? I forget.
I had the Subaru that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why didn't you take your truck that day? People are going to ask.
Well, because the car was just sitting there, and I'm paying these payments, $600 a month plus the insurance, and it's just sitting there. And I thought, well, I may as well get some use out of it. And I threw all my tools in there and started driving it for a little while, just because,
Yeah.
Chris,
mainly product.
that just doesn't fly. Like I said, if you've ever done drywall work, that is a messy job, and there's that drywall dust, and the mud is it's everywhere, and you don't take a brand new car.
Well, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that side, and here's the reason why. Okay, hypothetically, if this is an alibi, of course people are going to see him. Okay. They're going to say, dude, what are you doing here at work? Because what's interesting is he talks about it towards the end of the day when he runs into Jamie, his coworker. Okay?
Yeah.
And they sat there chatting it up. And at some point his boss comes over. Well, I don't think his boss, he's the team lead on this drywall crew. So either he went to where his boss was, or his boss came to him and just accidentally ran into him, or something was, the universe on schedule here. But
right,
so I'm not gonna, personally, I mean, I hear where you're going and I agree with you, okay, but I'm just kind of thinking outside of the box, another step, which obviously you and I do quite effectively here, right? But what if the dastardly deed has already occurred? And back to that theory, and it's just a theory. The cell pings, I think you and I would both agree, are going to tie this together pretty rapidly.
Yes, they will.
Yeah, and so, go ahead.
I think that I'm right along those same lines with you. That there's a reason that he took that car. I'm just saying the reason that he's giving, because it's just sitting there and he's paying $600 a month plus insurance. That's not a good reason. There's another reason for it. It's ultra sensitive to him, and he has to explain why he's doing that. And he's right on the money. He's alibi building by talking to Jamie. And luckily, he says, luckily, there's the LY word. I guess a couple of guys I talked to that day, and the big boss seen me that day, knows where I was. So he's saying the boss seen him, but you're right. He didn't say the boss came to that job. Maybe he drove to the boss. He's not saying how that all played out, but I do know that came in conjunction with him describing a normal day. And when he does that, the red flags go up. I'm like, oh, what's he going to tell me that was his normal day? Why is that so sensitive? Instead of just telling me, hey, I went to work, I did this and this and this. I talked to my boss, I talked to Jamie. This is how my day played out. Give me a play-by-play of that day. If that is important to you, and he's been questioned over and over, and so he knows that he needs an alibi for that day. He needs to account for his time. And what he's doing here is still leaving unaccounted a lot of time. All he's accounting for here is 30, 40 minutes when he's talking to Jamie. What about all the other time? He left all that out, and that's very important. There's a reason why he left it out. He can't account for it. All he can account for, 30, 40 minutes when he's talking to Jamie, and sometime in there, his boss seen him. That's it. Yeah. What about all the other time? He left it all out. And that's the point here. That's why the car is so sensitive, because I agree with you. He took that car, but there's a reason why he did it. And you're right. Maybe it's because it stands out like a sore thumb. They wanted to see him. Who knows? That we don't know that. There's a multitude of scenarios as to why that car was important to take, but just because it's sitting there and he's spending $600 a month, no, that's not it. It goes in conjunction with him having to create this alibi. That's what it is. Alibi building.
I'm tracking you, Hunter, on that one for sure. And yeah, because I mean, to your point, this is the day that all of a sudden you're driving the $600 Subaru, into work. And he does say later on, back to I wish I would have asked him what she was wearing that morning, because later, he makes the comment, she was wearing her, her kindergarten outfit, right, or her first day of school outfit, and so, right. And we'll get into that, but I thought that was kind of pretty unique in of itself, but I want to hear what you're going to weigh in on that. So I'm going to keep moving. You good?
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
So you take the truck, or the car. How far away is your job? What are you doing?
It is 45 minutes away in Jonesboro.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, what time do you get there? Do you remember?
I don't. I probably went and had some breakfast, somewhere or whatever, and come out here. I don't remember for sure. No, I don't.
Okay. What time do you call Candace, if you remember? I'm just trying to figure out the timeline and the window.
I'm trying to think. I'd say, maybe 3 o'clock or something like that. Okay. But I don't know. I'm not sure of that at all.
Now, construction workers typically work 7 to 3. 7 a.m. to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, typically. Yeah. And by the way, for the record, before I was a policeman, I was a carpenter, and I had a journeyman's card. So I've built commercials and houses, since 1977, quite frankly. So I understood the mentality of what he was talking about, and that's when he was talking about getting off his steel, which is his stilts, mixing his mud, which is the drywall mud. So he doesn't know that part of my life. So I'm going to keep moving. Sorry.
Oh, perfect.
Well, because he says in here, maybe 3 o'clock or something like that. That's when he calls.
Yeah.
Candace.
Yeah. So this would be what when he's getting off work. It's something like that, and I could see that happening. It's, I mean, he could call Candace on a break or something, but you're right. 3:00 is typically the time they would get off, and it depends on, I guess, the job, that his relationship with his boss, or the setup that they have. If he can work as late as he wants, to get a job done or something, I don't know, but I do know that he is not accounting for his time that day, and he's it's possible he doesn't remember the time, but there's something significant about the time, because he really goes into that. I think he did it earlier when he's talking about the time that he arrived at the house, and he just goes on and on about this timing thing, and how the police have it wrong, and he was the first one there, and he beat the police there, and that's not true. He didn't beat the police there, but so this timing thing for him is key, and typically when they start employing this extra emphasis on the timing, it's because it's key for the story to work, to play out, just like the dogs having to be gone. That's key for the story, and so anyway, timing is always an issue.
Unless she's doing piecework or something, right, where they're paying him by the job. Yeah, he could work later, or he could work earlier. Or those guys can even work late into the evening, But typically, it's a 7 to 3 kind of game.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to keep moving.
Keep going.
And where was she when you called her? Do you know?
So I think she said she was either at Walgreens or headed to the lake, or I can't remember. But that's why I thought, well, I might as well just stay and work, because, that's just what I do. But,
yeah.
Emphasis.
So when you got the call, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
Well, she called frantic and panicking, and I said, well, just in case, hang up and call 911. And I thought it was. For some reason, I thought it was 5:30, but they keep telling me it's. I don't trust police.
So I jumped over the time because I don't want it to compromise the timeline. So what's your read on that one?
Well, first of all, he didn't answer your question.
I know.
He avoided or deflected the question. Your question was, what's the first thing that, when you got the call, meaning from Candace, what was the first thing that came to your mind? And he didn't answer. He said, well, she called frantic panic and panicking. So he's now saying, well, she was panicking, and now he's going to slow down the statement and tell you exactly what he said. Well, just in case, hang up and call 911. He didn't have to say that. He didn't. Why the need to tell us exactly what he told Candace? He answered the question, and he's not doing that. So we call this, he's slowing down the pace, meaning I don't want to get to that answer. So I'm going to tell you all this little detail that is true, so I don't have to get to the point where I have to manufacture something or be deceptive about something. That's stressful. I don't want to get there. So I'm going to tell you all this little detail that's true. So, he's still manufacturing some of that. And then he says, I thought it was 5:30, but they keep telling me, and it's another time. And that's what 911 says. But be honest with you, I don't trust the police. Well, he's telling us he doesn't trust the police, yet how does that play in? He just told Candace to call the police. And, there's some discrepancy there. And then look what happened. Oh, go on, because that's as far as we got. So there's more here.
And we showed them all the information on our phones because they wanted to know. They wanted to know the timeline. So we showed them right then. When I got there, they wanted to know all that. And they wrote it all down.
All right. So, again, still hasn't answered the question. What was the first thing that came to your mind? And so he goes off on this little tangent. He talks about the time. I thought it was 5:30. And that's what 911 says, but be honest with you. And typically when they say, but to be honest with you, it's an indication that he hasn't been honest. And you know that from from years of dealing with these guys, that when we hear that, it's like, oh, okay, here we go. So what haven't you been honest about? And he says, this came out of the blue, Chris. This phone thing, it had nothing to do with your question. It really had nothing to do with what he was saying before this. It came out of the blue. And so what it is it's a narrative that he had to get in somewhere. He had to get it in, and it's just like, let me just throw this in because this is something I really want you to know. And it's okay if it's contextual and helps us find Summer. I'm not so sure that this is. He says, we showed them all the information on our phones. They wanted to know the timelines, and we showed them right then when I got there. They wanted to know all that, and they wrote it all down. Where did that come from? That tells me that what is on their phones is uber sensitive.
Yeah, critical.
Yeah.
And not only that, he says, when I got there, I thought he was the first one there.
That's true. And he contradicted himself again. So he just said, I wasn't. He just told you, very good, that he wasn't the first one there.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, I'm listening to the,
No, I don't want to know what you said because you were there talking to him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he emphasizes, look, that they weren't there. So I went down to the bottom of the hill, looked around, and, he did all his searching. And then now it sounds like, the cops were there because that's the first thing he did was give them their phones. Because I know as an investigator, first thing I would, if all the red flags are up and I've had 15 or 20 minutes to listen and get debriefed by the team that's already there, okay, i.e. the search and rescue, the sheriffs, everybody that gets there, and you know how we circle up and everybody goes, keep an eye over here, right?
Yeah.
And, game on. Kind of like Christopher Watch when the body camera, the cop just stood there and let him do his thing.
Yeah,
okay.
Beautiful.
Well, yeah, it was. So this is the same principle. And so when he said that, he said, look, I was furious because I was the first one there. I beat everybody. I beat the cops. I beat the search and rescue. Yeah. So basically what he said was it was me, Candace, Grandma, and the kids all searching for the baby. Well, you and I both know the moment that 911 call came in, and it's online, those guys did such a fantastic job of immediately putting into play all of the resources before even going on scene, just in case. Because you and I both know you get 3 hours, okay, for a missing child. And these guys, I think he's one of the guys, I can't remember what the call sign or what the signal sign was, but I think it was like something like 302. And then maybe that went back to the watch commander or to the lieutenant or whoever, the sheriff even, for him to say, look, let's get this thing moving. This is a missing 5-year-old. And when he said that, I thought, okay, we'll just put that up on the board. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going, brother.
Hold on a second. Just a couple things.
Yep.
He's messed up his timeline, and what he's doing now to cover for that is he's casting blame on the police, and so that's I think that's why he went to that phone thing, because it referred back to that. Maybe we haven't got there yet, or maybe we passed it. I can't even remember anymore, Chris. That information magically disappeared from the phones. He's casting this blame on the police, and you mentioned something about, or you referred back to him being when he said he was the first on the scene. And if you remember, he said that he went straight to the shed. He went straight down there to the shed, and Chris, and there was a lot of verbiage there about what he did when he first got there, and that he beat the cops and everybody there. And what he was doing, and he was linguistically controlling the scene. It's pretty amazing when you look at it. He's controlling what's going on there in his mind, linguistically, he's letting us know that he's trying to control that. There's something about that shed, because he repeats that shed over and over and over and over. And I don't know if that was a place where Summer was for a short period of time and then moved, or where that's something happened to her there. Maybe he had a stash of drugs in the shed and he wanted to make sure that those were gone. I don't know what it was, but there's something significant about that shed. And I'll tell you this also, he inferred he was looking for Summer, but he never said it. All he did was say, I screamed at the top of my lungs for her. That's what he did. Well, why would you do that if you already know that she's gone and she's off the property? There's so many things that are wrong with that, and he's trying to linguistically keep it together, but he actually gave away that he pointed to where the investigators should focus their efforts, and probably the search on the property. It should probably focus right around that area. He's trying to move the investigators off the property, and I think that's a clue too.
Yeah, and right. I mean, I don't know what's in that shed, or what the total relevance. Yeah. The fact that he offered it, and I know that they've been, up and down that property, with 1,000 guys. So let's pray that, if they did find something, they're certainly not going to tell us, which is a great thing. So we don't know right now, but I love where you're going with that. I think you're 100% on target here. So I'm going to keep moving.
Keep going.
And when you got there, do you remember what time you arrived?
I have no idea. I wasn't paying attention. I was on Messenger with Candace as she was driving her mother's truck around looking for her in the area. Okay. So I talked to her the whole way there, and it's really kind of weird that we was able to talk all the way there, because normally we don't have connection like that.
Right.
Hey, let's just call it an audible here, Chris.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he said, when I didn't get a call back from Candace, I knew at that point, I don't remember his exact words, but I knew right then that she was gone. He said earlier he didn't get a call back from Candace, and so he's driving home as fast as he can, which reminded me of the Barry Morphew thing. Yep. And convincing us what the urgency that he had there. But now he's telling us, well, I was on Facebook Messenger with her the whole time.
The way.
Okay. So maybe he told you the truth. Excuse me, that he didn't get a call back. Well, it's because he's on Facebook Messenger with her the whole way. So they're communicating the whole way. So which one of these are we to believe? We can't believe both of them. One of them is not true. So, yeah. And here's another thing. It's really kind of weird that we was able to talk all the way there, because normally we don't have connection like that. This day, he says they had connection like that. So, Chris,
yeah, and that was one of the reasons she had to switch phones to call 911, because she had Verizon, and she had to get the AT&T phone. Okay, so the phone is still we need to keep it up on the board, Steve, because that in of itself is, you've nailed again something. I think we're going to have to take a harder look at outside. Yeah. So I'm going to keep going.
All right, let's go.
It's kind of odd.
And what was she driving?
Even he thought it was odd. Yeah, it's kind of weird,
And I believe him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, wow, we were talking to each other. That's weird. Okay.
Driving.
Her mother's truck.
That the Chevy, the Silverado?
Yeah.
And what was Grandma doing when you showed up?
I don't even know what she was doing. I think talking to the police and probably just standing there looking or whatever, I don't know.
And what were the boys doing?
Looking for Summer, and then once all the police started arriving, bottlenecked all the roads. Nobody could move. So they was instead.
So, when he got there, right? When Grandma did, and what was Grandma doing? I don't even know what she was doing. I think talking to the police and probably just standing there. And then he says, and then all the police started arriving. So there's cops there again.
Yeah, again.
And
He
there's
gave
more
himself
cops
away.
coming. Yeah, he gave it up
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Didn't realize it. Okay.
And here's another little thing too, is that as you get deeper into this language, earlier in this statement, he made some comments about the stress he was feeling. He is feeling stressed about trying to escape his property, trying to get out, but yet he doesn't. He just kind of goes willy-nilly. He just wants to go here and look here and there. He didn't even really look for Summer. The stress is not about Summer. The stress is about him getting off the property. And he's it's like this guy feeling like, I gotta escape from here. I gotta get out of here. And instead of, I'm gonna look all over my property for my little girl that's missing, that's not what it's about. And the interesting thing too here is that he's blaming he says that his boys were in a state of confusion and panic. And the reason they were in a state of confusion and panic is because all the roads were bottlenecked and they couldn't move. Chris, that's an indication to me that there's stress in his language. It's stress because he can't get out. He can't get out. He can't get away. And I'm leaning heavily towards guilty knowledge here of some type. I'm not saying that I'm just saying he has guilty knowledge, and I'll just leave it at that. But he wants to. They don't like to stay in that same on scene where they know that potentially there's evidence. There's maybe something happened there. They like to get away, and so that's the stress that he's feeling right here.
Well, and it's going to be an interesting listen to those 911 calls. So let's think through that, right? And I saw somebody say Verizon and AT&T are the same. No, they're not. They're two separate companies. Okay, go buy some stock. Okay, so if the interesting thing is going to be is if Candace says, let's say hypothetically, on that call, I can't find my daughter. My daughter's missing. My husband told me to call 911. I need you here. Okay, and then Don's call is, my daughter's been abducted. Okay, hypothetically, if that is a possibility, then immediately you and I both know that radio call is coming out. In California, it's called a 207. It's a kidnapping, okay? And immediately, every unit in that vicinity would start shutting down the traffic lanes or start surveilling cars moving. And the watch commanders, we both know, would come up and say, get to the intersections. Yeah. Okay. And other places, which we're not going to talk about. But immediately that would be in motion. Okay. So, I think this is the search and rescue guys, blocking off the roads, what he's talking, bottleneck down there. But I think it would have started long before any of this conversation that he's putting up here. So
yeah, I agree.
2 cents.
Hey, and by the way, if those 911 calls are made available, that's a gold mine. I would love to break those down.
Yeah, no, I know, but we probably won't hear them until later, right? But and by the way, you and I both know I'm not interrogating this guy. I'm just taking his statement. I'm looking for Summer. Okay, and you can't get any better than their parents to look for Summer, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
To ask him questions. It's TBI's job and the FBI to sit down with him and talk about the inconsistencies if there are any from their perspective.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this one was really interesting because I actually talked to some people that were there, and I know his driveway was blocked off, and I know that he pulled up according to this individual, and identified himself as the father. Okay. So I knew this right here while I was speaking to him was not 100%.
The confusion and panic, I'd say,
Now,
cops in and out.
was there a car at the bottom of your driveway when you pulled up? Like a
No.
cop car or anybody? You just pulled right
There
in?
was nobody there. I was the first one there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, just
Yep.
as an aside, Chris,
What about,
Yeah.
you talked about earlier, you said, what about the emphasis he put on break? And if you compare the tone in his voice and the emphasis that he's using here, when you just verified that this is a direct lie. This is an outright lie, which, by the way, most people don't do. He's one of the people that will give you an outright lie. He said he emphasized that, and it was the same emphasis that he put on the word break earlier on when we were talking about that. So when you identify how someone lies or is deceptive, it's consistent. It will stay consistent. That's how he does it. So
Interesting. So you're seeing his pattern.
yeah,
Right here.
that's it.
Very cool. Okay.
when you got there, what was your first impression of where you should search first?
Well, that's why I drove down to the bottom, because I didn't even.
Now, see, he says he went to the top, and then he drove down to the bottom. So he went up to the house first. Okay.
And he's directly contradicting that right here.
Number two. Yeah, the second time.
I didn't even go to the house.
Yeah.
He says, I went
Go to the
straight.
house. I went straight by that shed on the bottom.
Yeah,
Yep.
there we go. That shed, I'm telling you, I went straight by that shed on the bottom. He's trying to control this situation linguistically. Straight. This is when they use that word straight. I went straight by that shed, and I hear this a lot in deceptive statements when they say, "I got off work and I drove straight home." Well, why they need to add those extra words? That took extra cognitive energy, and it's typically people will just say that the shortest. They'll say it the shortest way they can. I got off work and went home. That's it. Why say I got off work and drove straight home? That tells me you likely stopped somewhere along the way because you had the need to persuade me that it was straight home. Same thing here. I went straight by that shed on the bottom. So there's something else has gone on. He just doesn't want to tell us. There's missing information. And I know also because he gave you a reason when you didn't ask. Well, that's why I drove down to the bottom, because I didn't even go to the house, which is a lie. He's deceptive. He's leaving out information, and he said I went straight by that shed. He's trying to convince you that that's what he did. There's something else that happened right there in that time period.
Yeah, that's going to be, that's pretty interesting because you're right. I mean, he keeps, bringing that shed into the play here, and that's he went to the bottom of the property. He says I drove down to the bottom because I didn't even go to the house. So he said, if you think in my mind, I was thinking, okay, he's got such a sharp driveway, okay, that why are you saying you drove down instead of I drove to?
Yeah.
The shed.
Yeah.
Okay? And, maybe it's nothing, but we'll see where it goes here.
Oh, I think it's something. I think it's. I think it's key.
Here we go.
Yeah, is that the one where off the bottom of your property to the
Yes.
Okay.
I got that little dirt road I went past.
So just for everybody listening, so one, I have some homework. Okay, let's take this statement that you're listening to, and then as you hear him on other channels or whatever, watch how many gaps he's filling on those other channels. Okay, and get a chalkboard and bullet point those gaps. Okay, so like right now, he's going to clarify that, well, maybe there would have been a cop at the bottom of the hill. Okay, because he's adapting and learning as he goes along here. Okay, and what he doesn't understand is the more he does that, the more problematic it becomes, for finding Summer. For finding Summer. Because he should be crisp in his thought process about his daughter. Okay? That should be 100% his focus. Yeah. He should be talking about the last time I saw Summer, she was wearing A, B, C, and D. Okay? And what can we do to go out there and hunt for her? Look at Larry Miliette's family searching for Maya. Okay? If you see that same behavior for a 5-year-old, give me a call. Okay? That dirt road.
Past that, I went straight down that hill, straight to the creek, and that's when I seen my boys, and then I seen my neighbor Don walking to the left side, and the boys were on the other side of the hill, and I knew, like I say, I knew my heart just sank right there. I just knew she was gone.
And what brought you to that place first and not to the house?
Well, I figured they was looking all over the house,
Say it again.
Well, I just said that's a good question.
Oh.
But,
yeah, just let him finish this.
Well, I probably ain't been out buying property yet or anything, so that's what made me drive down there first.
Okay. Yeah, let's hold up. So, I love your question. What brought you to that place first and not to the house? Meaning down there at the bottom by the shed. Well, I figured they was looking all over the house, And he's already revealed that he was probably already up at the house because now he's got to go down to the shed, just like you said, down to the bottom. He says, but I was thinking they probably ain't been around the property yet. So that's what made me drive down there first. That's a lot of words for him to say in regards to the first thing that came to his mind. He's given you an excuse for what the biggest thing here. I was thinking they probably ain't been around the property yet. Okay. Now, if that is the case, why hasn't he told us that, number one, that he went and he searched all over the property, and even when the cops got there, he was out searching his property? He didn't do that. And number two, earlier in this statement, he offered as a reason for that he just knows Summer wouldn't wander off. He said, because we have bears. But he has never once said, well, there's a good chance. I mean, there's a chance that if she wandered off, a bear got her, a lion got her, anything like that, and I'm going to go find her on my property. That's not the case. He has feigned looking around, and when he has described looking for her, he's driving off the property, looking here and there, and not really knowing what to do or where to go. My goodness. Again, direct contradiction, and it's actually insulting to us as parents that have kids. It's like, hey, buddy. Yeah, I agree that you probably should search your property. You have a lot of property here that a 5-year-old could disappear in. And so that's where I'd be searching. And yet he never does that. All he does is go down by the shed, and that's it. And then he says, and then the finality sets in. I knew she was gone. So why search anymore? I'm not going to search anymore. She's already gone. And that's
a great point. That's a solid point. Yeah,
disgusting.
Did he know it on the call, right? On the FaceTime coming in.
Yeah, right.
Where, he interject that really early, And he's staying on that theme, blaming the cops, saying that, yeah, I don't trust the police. I mean, these are the same people looking for your daughter right now. They're working right now as we speak, looking for Summer, and he doesn't trust them. I don't get that piece of the puzzle. For me anyway, I don't get that piece of the puzzle.
Well, it's because
Yeah.
it's because these are the guys that are going to find evidence that has been deleted, that he's hidden, that he's tried to cover up. Whatever he said earlier, he went by the shed and he said, well, I'm going to go check my car. When he was supposed to be looking for Summer, well, I guess I'm just going to go check my car. He used those words. What are you going to check your car for?
Yeah, filler words, right?
Yeah. Again, he knows that the police are the ones that are going to find evidence. And so he's already laying the foundation. Well, I don't trust them. And Chris, any investigator out there knows that when we go to court in any case, it's not that the suspect is on trial. We're on trial. It's the job that we did in the investigation. That is what is brought into question always. And that's what he's doing here. He's laying that foundation. He is a convict. He's been to trial. He knows how this goes, and he's already laying that foundation.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, the PD's fault, right? It's always the cops' fault. Always.
Yeah.
And by the way, he put up a case on his Facebook page, the Michael Crow case, which, I was involved in. I was a CVSA examiner at the time. And he, if you want to learn about that case, guy, I did you a favor. I put it in the link below after tonight's broadcast. You guys can go read it, and that's the court's decision. So I don't want to bust anybody's bubble tonight, but there you go. So I'm going to keep moving. You good with that?
Yeah, let's go.
And then, did you go into that shed?
No.
Is that,
Well,
is that
did.
yours too, by the way, real fast?
Yeah, that's ours. Well, I did. I don't know if I checked it then or later, but I know I did go in there and look. But I'm not sure if it was right then or I might have parked and walked in there and looked real quick. I just don't remember. But once I knew she was gone, I went to the top of the house. Went up the driveway up there.
Well,
Yeah,
so
hold up.
why wouldn't you have gone into the shed?
So obvious contradiction, right? He just there's a lie there. Did you go into that shed? No. That's what he told you. And then he says, well, yeah, I did. I don't, and then this you can sense the stress in his voice and in his words. You can sense the anxiety that he's having. He's fumbling all over his words. It's just like word salad. I don't know if I checked it then or checked it later, but I know I did go in there and look there. I'm not sure when. This is all about timing, okay? This is key for him for some reason. If it was right then, or I might have parked and walked in there and looked real quick, I just don't remember. Buddy, I'm telling you, you would remember where you went to find looking for your daughter. It's one of those things.
Look what he says right after that. He said, but once I knew she was gone.
Yeah.
At the shed?
That's where I was talking about. He's linguistically controlling this scene. Once I knew that the shed was clear, I went to the top of the house. And I went up the driveway there.
Because now he knew she was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's after he checked the shed or whatever it was he did down there.
That's interesting. Yeah, he does. He says, let's play it again so the world can hear.
Yeah, that's ours. Well, I did. I don't know if I checked it then or later, but I know I did go in there and look. But I'm not sure if it was right then or I might have parked and walked in there and looked real quick. I just don't remember. But once I knew she was gone, I went to the top of the house. Went up the driveway up there.
Gone from where?
Exactly.
The shed? The shed?
The shed. The shed.
Interesting.
That's why I say I'm wondering if that shed was a,
What did your
if she
team
was
say?
in there.
What did the team think?
Well, they all they can come up with is that shed is like uber sensitive. It's key for him, and that there was a lot of stress leading up to that shed. I drove straight down there. That's the place he emphasized, and he's going to talk about sheds over and over again coming up here. But it's like he calmed down linguistically. The stress level came down once I knew she was gone, meaning not in that shed. I went to the top of the house, and I went up the driveway there.
So his
calms
anxiety's up. His anxiety's up. Anxiety's up. I got to verify. Is that where you're headed here?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. She's not in there.
Yep. That's
so
it.
Now I can get up top.
Yeah. So whatever the scenario was, evidence, whatever, he has to control this. And even though that maybe someone else was involved in it somehow, whatever the case was, he has to double check and make sure is it clear? Is everything gone? He's controlling this. And then now she's gone. There's no evidence. All right, I'm good now. Now I'm calm. And this is typical. The people will retell the scenario the way that they perceived it, the way that they lived it. And for him, we know that he was feeling stress up until that point in time when he checked the shed, and that's when he knew she was gone. Chris, if you remember, if you go back and you look at everything in his statement here in his interview, his emphasis is, when I got there, the first thing I did was drive straight down there and check the shed. When I got there, immediately I knew she was gone. As soon as I got there, I knew she was gone. It all is in that same time frame. He knew she was gone when he first got there. What did he do? He checked the shed. That's the first place he went. It all hinges. If you go back, you could count them up, and there's going to be a lot of check marks. And it all hinges around this. First thing, check the shed. That's when I knew she was gone. I believe
Interesting.
I believe him. That's when he knew she was gone for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Finality.
right? There's some potentials, right? I mean, what if somebody, had lived in that shed, right, or stayed in there? I couldn't get. I took some pictures of it, and I couldn't get in because I didn't want to trespass. But I stood on the road and took some pictures of it, and yeah, that shed is fascinating to hear your analysis on that, Steve. I'm going to keep going. We've got 16,000 people here listening right now. So, if it's okay with you, do you have a little more time?
Yeah, I got a little bit more time.
Okay, because I know I want to be sensitive to everybody here, but because we're just getting into the meat and potatoes here, I know, this is going to be interesting.
Well, so why wouldn't you have gone into the shed? I'm curious.
I may have. I just can't be sure on that.
Okay.
If I did, I went in there, but I'm not sure if I went in there right then or if I went in there at a later time. I'm not sure.
Okay. And then go ahead. I'm listening.
Well, once the police started arriving and everything, I was like, man, I'm going to go question all these damn drug dealers and everything like that. And, and they reluctantly said, go ahead.
So this is the drug dealer introduction.
Yeah.
And he got approval from the cops. Yeah, go ahead. You go out and do all the interviews, of who may have your kid, right? They reluctantly said. Interesting.
Yeah, that was the case.
Yeah, sod.
That's right.
Yeah. DLR, guys. And if you're new to our channel, sod means some other dude, and DLR means does not look right. All right. So I think y'all should put pressure on and get the list of every person they know. So now he's directing the investigators.
Yeah.
I should put pressure on them and get a list of every person they know. And if it was me, I'd lock them up or whatever, and then start asking questions. But it's not up to me. But
Yeah, why would you do that? Why from your perspective?
Because okay, Ben Hill Road. If you go, no, I don't want to get him in trouble or nothing. But everybody goes back there looking for pills.
So he basically says this road up there, he's got somebody back there that's a hookup for, probably meth, pills, or whatever, right? So this is essentially calls this a drug corridor.
Yeah.
And anything in here you want to jump on? And
just real quick, when they start steering the investigation, as you know, for all of you out there, when they start steering the investigation out there, it tells us that we need to look anywhere but there. When we have so much deception and other things that we're already seeing in the statement, then suddenly he steers the investigation, it's a red herring. We need to look just the opposite. So he's steering it. He's introducing the druggies and all that. This is just, it's fluff. It's nothing of substance that we as investigators should spend our time on. It's where he wants us to go, but that's not where we should be looking. It's just the opposite.
Yeah, and all right, so
Meth or whatever it is they're looking for, and we see all kinds driving back through there. We even see a car coming back there just barely running on 2 cylinders, just everything they got to get back there, asking if he's got a pill or whatever,
Yeah, tweaker vehicles are difficult to keep on the road. As they take them apart and they don't put them back together. So that's always a challenge.
It's crazy. My neighbor has caught people parking our driveways, sitting there doing drugs, either early in the morning, late at night, or whatever, many times over.
Now, this is, to me, significant because he said he now is telling a story out in the environment where there was a truck in his driveway. And in here now, he's setting the stage.
Yep.
For that idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's really selling this.
So
yeah,
basically
it's for sale.
That's a drug corridor, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so people go up there to cop dope.
Yes, or they, and then there's the other places, I don't know where they're all at, but they all intermingle, and how that kind of works, I guess. But
well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dynamics always, right? There's a lot of moving parts. So
yes.
Back to Summer for a minute. So when you got to the house, and did you go into the house at any time?
Well, yeah, I went in the house, out of the house. I mean, we was turning everything, looking everywhere. We didn't know what to do, and the police started pulling up, and this and that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he has himself up at the house when the cops are pulling up. So that means that statement of going down the hill, makes sense.
It makes sense.
Instead of going to the shed.
And did you notice the hesitation here? You asked the question, and then this huge hesitation. Well, yeah. I went in the house.
Explain that to our listeners, Steve. I mean, why that's so significant in linguistics and the mind?
Because it's stress. What happens is we've already called out that there's deception in his language, and when there's something that somebody wants to withhold for whatever reason, and the brain knows it, and yet we're purposely withholding it, it creates this stress in the brain. And what that is our brain works very fast, and when there is stress, it actually is like throwing a wrench in the cogs of the speedy wheels of the brain, and it just stops it up. and we don't know what to do with it for a moment. We have to now manufacture something, and it causes this hesitation. I see it in the handwriting. It'll cause different anomalies in the handwriting, spacing, messing up, mistakes, different things like that. And it's the same thing linguistically. So this caught him off guard. He wasn't expecting this, and so it caused some stress for him, and he didn't know how to answer. If he really experienced something, he could spit it out without even thinking about it. It's one of those things that's experiential memory. There's neurons that connect in the brain. There's chemical that releases in the body. When a memory is created, all our senses come into play, and it creates all these neuron connections. And there's it's an intricate process, and yet it happens in just a microsecond of time. It happens. Our body remembers. Our brain and our bodies remember, and it's very easy for us to recount what happens. And when we have to manufacture that creates stress, and it creates this hesitation, and he doesn't know what to say. He can't commit to it. And it's in his language here. I love this answer. He says, well, yeah, I went in house, out of the house. He can't even be specific with it. I went in house, out of the house. And if you play it back again, Chris, and you'll see how weird this sounds.
In the house, out of the house. I mean, we was turning everything, looking everywhere. We didn't know what to do, and the police started pulling up, and this and that. Yeah.
And where did you?
He never says he was actually looking for her. This is all he wants you to interpret that he was, but there's nothing specific here. This is all like, oh, what did he do? Turn over a piece of paper? I don't know. I mean, there's nothing concrete here.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm done. Pretty much, it just reeks of that he did anything but what he wants you to believe here.
Well, and he parses that. He parsed that off in pieces, where Candace, when I went downstairs with her, she says, this is where, this is the bedroom, basically, and says, and she says everybody looked under the beds, okay, and he says in his statement, he says, essentially Candace said she looked under the beds, okay, but you and I both know the first thing they teach you in the academy in a missing child is live in that house first.
Yeah.
Tear it up, meaning not tear it up physically, but look in the bedrooms, the closets, under the beds, above the beds, in the attics,
wherever they could be hiding.
Right, and every one of us knows as a parent when your child has gone missing, that panic, that panic that sets in, and we're not talking about a grocery store here. We're talking about your house, okay? And so every one of us knows that the moment that baby is disappeared, especially a 5-year-old, immediately every parent panics, but they stay into that mode consistently. And the first thing they say when the cop says, okay, what have you checked? Okay, you'll hear a parent say, I've gone through that house 10 times, 15 times. Okay. Yeah. You won't hear a parent say, well, I'm going to go talk to all the dope dealers. Okay. I'm going to go interview all the dope dealers for you. Are you good with that?
Or we don't know what to do. We didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Where do we go? And what do we say, right? The PD says, sit down, wait right here for a minute. Okay. Do not leave. I don't want to get you out of my sight, because if we find her, right, Steve?
Yeah. Right.
We got to know where you are.
Yes.
Because if we find your baby, we're going to take you to her. Okay. So don't leave. Stay here.
And it's hard to corral them in. They don't want to stay there. They want to get out and find their loved one, their kid, their little 5-year-old Summer. It's difficult to keep them there, and they complain. please let me go. How long? When can I get up and go? Can I get my phone and call so and so or whatever? And they want to go. It's very difficult. They're just like they want to throw up that they can't get up and go find their baby. So this is totally opposite of that. Very good point.
I mean, and usually though, if it was a scenario where the parents, go in different directions, right? And let's say they search the house and then immediately they go in directions, right? You end up looking for the parents, okay?
Right. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
How many times have we done that, right?
Yeah.
Well, where the heck did the parents go? Okay.
Yeah.
And so now here's something I do know. They established the command center up at the top of that hill at her house, okay, with the search and rescue. Okay. And if you've seen those pictures laying around, you'll notice the boys are playing, on the swing and doing other things, okay? Mm-hmm. That's reality. That's what they did. They contain the family because they don't know what they're dealing with yet. And so, we'll see where that's going to end up. So this was a good catch, Steve. That was really fascinating. So let's go a little bit more. And we don't have to. What time? Go ahead.
Just 1 second here. I just want to point out something that's significant, and it goes unnoticed by most because it seems to be a minor thing, but this is really to knowledge. And so you asked him specifically when you got to the house, and did you go into the house at any time? He says, well, and you have a lot of hesitation. And I went in-house, out of the house, which we're wondering, what kind of language is that? And look what he did. He then buried himself in the crowd, we call it. He used we. We was turned, and it doesn't even make sense, Chris. We was turning everything, looking everywhere. We didn't know what to do. The cops started pulling up and this and that, and those things that don't want to say. He had to associate himself with someone else, which I'm assuming is Candace, whoever it was. He had to associate himself, and that's very typical of people with guilty knowledge. They don't like to be alone. They like, hey, I want to hide in the crowd. I want to be associated with someone else. I think I said last time on your show, little Johnny gets in trouble for pulling hair or throwing spit wads. Hey, but Mom, everyone was doing it. I'm going to bury myself, associate with everyone else. It's more comfortable that way. There's less stress if everyone was doing it or she was doing it. And so that's what he's doing here.
Yeah. And I think some of the dialogue drag here, just obviously is, the way he pronunciates and I lived in Tennessee for, a couple of years. I lived in Spring Hill. So some of that is the drawl, which is, I'm originally from North Carolina, so I get that. Okay. But at the same time, I agree with you 1,000% that he's dragging it on and he has interjected this combo plate, we'll call it.
Combo plate. That's a good way to put it.
Right.
I like that.
Here we go.
Did you search?
Pretty much everywhere in the sheds, the shed
Sheds plural.
There we go.
right there by the house, all the sheds, everything. I look everywhere. Mostly I screamed at the top of my lungs when I was a kid for summer, hoping that she was just lost and around there close somewhere.
Right.
Okay.
And then what about her?
Let's break that one down, and we'll probably have to call it, maybe get some questions after this one. But he's shedding a lot on you right here. It's
the curly shuffle.
That's right. Pretty much. Where did you search? Pretty much everywhere, in the sheds. Okay, the shed right there by the house, all the sheds, and then so the sheds we know is very significant to him. Again, we go back to the shed. That's where he first went. That's where he looked. Chris, I think that's the only place he looked, because that's the only thing, that's the only answer he can give you that is the sheds. Okay? The sheds, the shed right there by the house, all the sheds. And then he gets up. Now it gets ambiguous. Everything looked everywhere. And he dropped the pronoun I. He didn't say I looked everywhere. He took himself psychologically out of that. This goes hand in hand with the lack of commitment to him looking anywhere that we saw earlier in his statement. And this backs that up, that he really didn't. It was, he wants us to believe, he wants you to believe that he did, but I know from his language that he didn't. Okay? It was feigned. So now what he says, mostly, so this supersedes him looking everywhere. Mostly, I screamed at the top of my lungs, and if you don't believe me, that's my words. Now he says, this is why you should believe him. As he qualifies it, he says, as loud as I could for summer. And then if you don't believe that, why did I do that? Hoping that she was just lost around there close somewhere. Okay? Again, now we have a contradiction. Again, because he said before that he knew that she was gone. And now he's saying that he's hoping that she was somewhere close out there. He's saying that pretty much all he did, Chris, he checked a shed and he screamed at the top of his lungs for summer. If you don't believe me, it was as loud as I could because I was just hoping she was close somewhere. Well, here's the thing. In the very beginning, and I said this before, what about the bears? He said, because we do have bears around there, but this never was part of his concern that maybe a bear got her, which would be very quick and silent. I mean, she would be drug off, and that would be it, right? But that's never a possibility. For me, if I lived in a wooded area where there were bears, that would be a definite possibility, and I would be on high alert all the time for my little ones that, hey, there's bears. I don't know if there's lions or whatever, but that would definitely be on my radar right away. But all he's going to do is scream at the top of his lung, hoping that Summer can hear him. And, you know, none of this other, that maybe she got hurt, she fell, she can't answer. He's not out looking for her. So, man, this screaming was for show. If he actually screamed, it was for show. And I would love to know from the investigators if he actually did scream, because if he did, that was for show.
Interesting. You know, Steve, you're so cool. I just love hearing your analysis. It's just fascinating. So let's do this. I mean, I know we still got some information to get through here. So let's take some questions for you. And by the way, if this is the first time you've been here on our channel, I'm with Steve Johnson from Truth to Lies. He's a forensic statement analyst. Has been doing this forever. And you get a chance, his link is in below. It's going to be in the description below. We're grateful that you're here tonight. If it's your first time, please subscribe. We're grateful that you're able to be with us. So that said, Steve, let's take a couple of questions here. And are you okay to pick up looks like we're going to have to do I thought we were going to get through this, but looks like we got to do a part 3. Are you good for Sunday on a part 3?
Yeah, you just let me check with my boss, and and then I think we'll probably be good on Sunday. I'll just confirm it, and yeah.
Then we'll go from there. Cool. So let's grab a couple of questions here and see if oh, there they are. Chris, you said pay attention to her outfit. It was important. Was it because she would never wear it to school, or you never mentioned again? Great job, by the way. Thank you, Jackie Meeker. Okay, so I think her outfit is significant because it could be not necessarily about Summer in terms of it's about her mental condition, her mental state, to calm her. That this was the outfit that she was going to wear for her first day in school. And so sometimes you'll get in the grooming process, or as something that's going to be traumatic as a whole, you'll get certain little indicators that lower that stress level. Okay, that lowers that stress level, and so it's kind of like putting your hand out, to a small child, and a child of 4 years old typically will just reach up and take your hand, and these guys know that as a whole. Now, so I still think that what she was wearing when, quote, she was abducted is significant. Heaven Stars, during Don's comment about introducing the druggies, he says he thinks they should lock them up, but then says leave it up to God about Summer. Steve, what do you think on that one?
Well, that whole druggie thing is a red herring. So I guess that just says it all. That druggie thing is a red herring. He wants the investigators to focus on the druggies. But then if he says that leave it up to God for Summer, that he has processed that Summer is likely not coming back, highly likely that Summer's not coming back. And anytime they invoke deity, that is kind of the ultimate thing. He's now saying, if it's God, that he's accepted that Summer is dead. That's typically what that means. So it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign.
BV, that's a great question. Can law enforcement find deleted content on cell phone? Ask Barry Morphew.
Yeah.
Next, I saw one other in here. It was more of a comment, and I love these kind of comments when they come up. And let me see here. Let me find it. So, Dill, I want to find it here for a minute. Well, I guess it's gone. Never mind. Go ahead. Put the next one up, Dill. Melissa, drug dealers don't take babies, do they? That probably not. I mean, are there kids sold? Absolutely. Ask the Underground Railroad. Okay. There are a lot of kids sold, but they're mostly in foreign countries, by the way. Thailand being the most productive. Emily Folotto, Fultilla, sorry, forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong. Please clarify that Ellie has checked the property thoroughly. Chimney, sheds, basements, open crawl spaces, underhouse. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Karen, thank you. Go back to her interview with News. No one would ever treat her like that if I was around. She is talking about D. Wow. What do you think, Steve? That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, it really is.
Statement.
Goes back to now. Just going from this, I would say it relates back to maybe the essay. But I don't know. I don't remember this part of the interview. I'm sure it's there.
It's on a inner news conference that they gave early on.
Yeah. So to me, this obviously she's trying to throw Don under the bus, but I think it probably relates to the essay and I don't know.
I feel sorry for Summer. I got to be honest with you. I'm not excusing anything. Excuse me for Candace too. And I'm not excusing it. Don't misunderstand where I'm coming from. But she is human, and she is caught in the cycle. And I think there was a lot of what she told me was right on target. And not everything, but I think she's stuck. And it could be pretty interesting as this thing gets further and further down the road. Okay, what's next, Dill? Thank you, Dawn. Here, the picture, the day Summer disappeared, of boys in riding gear, timestamp 6:06 p.m. You see Summer's arm in a corner wearing the dress. Even if CQ just posted it, Candace, I got it, just posted it, why post 20 minutes before 911 call? That is a great question, and thank you for your consideration. So there's a picture of one of the boys in this motorcycle gear. The leathers, for the wolf, those kids, right? That stuff. And you can barely see on the edge of it, it appears to be Summer's arm in a little dress. And, I don't know what the timestamp is, but people are saying that, it was close to, obviously, the time of the 911 call. So I don't have that timestamp, so we'll see how that's going to unfold. Deborah, has the red car been searched? I don't have that answer. I'm assuming it has, because Don said they flipped everything inside out. Carrie MC, do you believe the boys are fearful of their dad? What do you think, Steve?
I think if he has that controlling personality, I would say yes. I don't think that, and the reason I say that is because somewhere within his comments, and I think it's in your interview, Chris, I can't remember for sure, but he made a comment about how he's never been close to anyone, and that Summer is the only one that's ever captured his heart. And that tells me that he is not close with anyone else, including his boys. And a personality like this, who's manipulative, if you cross them, then there's punishment. And so I think that's how he goes through. Now, he puts on this persona. He goes to church. He's very well spoken. He appears to be a very nice guy, and you know what? I think he is. But I think at home, there's something else going on, and it's that also fits the profile of this type of individual. So that's my take on that.
Okay. Yeah. Next, D. Please go back to Wisconsin. There is a connection to Rose Bly. Thank you, Kim. Well, I'm not going to tip my hat. So, but thank you. I appreciate that comment for sure, and your generosity. Next. Possible the red truck picked her up from the shed, like moved the body, Karen. I don't have that answer, Karen. I love, your thought process there. We don't know if that's in play or not. For sure, I know the TBI is still looking for that red truck, though. Let's keep that in the environment. He didn't lie. The LE was not at the shed when he arrived. The shed he is referring to was not at the main entrance of the property. Did Ellie identify that shed on his property? No, he identified it. He said, I went to the one down at the bottom of the hill, and I said, well, let's see here. We can just go back and look. I said, well, why did you go there? So, anyway, you got to ask Don that question. Appreciate it. Luke Vega, why didn't HB spend the night as planned? I don't know why Hunter didn't spend the night there. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Huda Ali, hi, how are you? Good to see you. Excellent work, Christian Steve. I was wondering, as a therapist, since there is a mental health illness and addiction in this case, does law enforcement work with psychiatrists? Yeah, all the time. Yep. And in fact, Steve and I both know, Dr. Larry Simon. I mean, we were just I was just up in North Dakota with Larry, training the North American Homicide Task Force up there. And yeah, we work with those guys all the time. Absolutely. Great question or statement. Jennifer Fox, do you think the shed is Don's secret place to taking Summer to? I was victim when I was young, and there was a secret place. Wow. Wow. Thank you for your bravery, Jennifer, for sharing that. Seriously. I'm going to let Steve weigh in on that.
First of all, to hear things from people like you, Jennifer, that were victims, it's heart-wrenching, and I'm sorry that happened to you. you know, these people are habitual. They like what they like, and if he had a secret place, then yeah, that could be it. I don't know that he needed a secret place because Summer spent the night in his bed every night. She was there, and I think that's where the abuse took place. I'm not sure that he needed any other secret place other than that. That basement, if that wherever whatever you want to call that they slept in down there, that's a little hiding hole, and so I don't know what the significance about that shed was, but something happened there. I'm just not sure what it was.
Yeah, there's definitely something there. Okay, next. Thank you for that question, Jennifer, and comment, and God bless you. Mandy, how do we go from here looking for Summer? Well, that is a great question. So this is what we call victimology. And this is the first filter in the 10 filters of profiling. In order to find the victim, you have to understand the victim. Okay? It's kind of like looking for a deer and not knowing what the hunter does to trap the deer. So in order to understand how to find the type of deer that the hunter selects, and let's use Barry as a perfect example, Barry Morphew. Okay? Barry's a hunter. And look at all what we're learning now with the prelim. Look at all the steps he took and who was his victim ultimately? Suzanne. So in this case, in order to understand what happened to Summer, you have to understand the totality of not only the victim, but anybody who potentially could have hunted her. And so that's why all of this is so important. And words are powerful to make that happen. That's why you interview subjects and witnesses. Interviews are critical to solving crimes. Okay? And so that's why we're spending so much time here. We've been here almost 3 weeks. And, until we get some definitive movements from, the environment, I think Summer's worth it. And I know you feel that too. Okay? I know you do. Country Thrift, thank you. The whole lie detector passing baffles me. No way they passed, right? Well, he says she passed, or Candace said she passed. Okay. I'm not going to, I don't know what Don, if he did or didn't. Okay. Candace said she did. So we'll see. And they're not admissible anyway. Okay. They're not admissible anyway. I know they took their blood. So we'll see if there's any chemicals on board. Don says no. He said that he didn't answer his, but he said no. He had nothing. And Candace came back, I guess, according to him, with marijuana. Okay. So we'll see what the authorities put out. Hunter's home life. Chris and Steve, we all be doing a part 3. I'm very interested. Yeah, if I can get Steve to come back for sure, and I know he will. But yeah, no, I am too, by the way. Honey, I think he's fascinating. Mystery. Steve, do you have an online course that does not require any prerequisites that anyone interested could take?
I'm glad you asked that, because yes, I do. If you get on my website, I have one online course, and it is, I just posted it not too long ago. So it is actually a course that was filmed in front of I was presenting to a group of criminal investigators. So you get the classroom feel, the experience, the dynamic of being in the classroom with me. And it is the whole enchilada, if you will. It is the exact same course that I give to criminal investigators. And so now I'm making it available to everyone. There is no prerequisite. You get on my website, and you can purchase the course. So I'm telling you, it is it's a 3-day course. So there's a ton of information in there. I've also added in some analysis that I introduce within the course to the group that we're training, and then I do a little bit deeper analysis because it's online here in the studio, and I'm breaking it down with you. There's a lot of different statements that I introduce them to you. I teach you the principles, and then you work on the statements, and it builds on itself. And by the time you get about 2/3 through that course, you'll be amazed at how you are analyzing these statements on your own. And I still break it down for you and I help you through in case you missed anything. But it's the whole thing, and it just builds and builds on itself. So it's a great course. Jump on there and get that one. And for everyone else, I have on that website a free PDF on the homepage. Go get that free PDF. You'll be on my email list. I don't share your information with everyone.
That's about Lori Vallow, right?
No, not that one. I have another. I have in the blog articles. I have an article about Lori Vallow and several others. That those are free. You can get in and read those. It's a breakdown.
They're fascinating, guys. They're fascinating. Trust me. Go ahead.
Yeah. So go check those out, and within the next couple of weeks, I'll be posting a smaller course as well. I shouldn't say that in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping in a couple of weeks, but it won't be the full thing. It'll be a smaller thing. So anyway, momentarily, that course that I teach to law enforcement is available to all of you. So now's the time to get it. It's at law enforcement price, which is cheap. So that course, the cost of that course will probably go up later on, but right now it's geared for law enforcement, pricing and everything, no prerequisites. All of you have access to it. So go to the website.
How dare law enforcement pay to come to your classes, right?
I know that's the way it is.
How dare that happen? Guys, I'm watching, this will go on all evening. I'm telling you, Steve is the best in the industry. That's why law enforcement goes to him. So the fact that, he's been doing this with the public now, teaching corporate 500s, and sounds like you're really expanding your team, to keep moving on this. And I applaud you, Steve. I've known you for a while, and there is nobody better. And I'm not just, I know that because I've watched you work and I've seen your work and I've seen the results. You testify all the time as an expert, and you've been voir dired in the superior courts as an expert. So this is not just somebody that, just showed up on a YouTube channel for all of the haters out there, right? This is the real guy here. It's the real deal. And
yeah, we do. It's the real thing, and that's my focus. Is to my focus. The reason I'm doing this is to bring justice. It's to make investigators better investigators. What I'm teaching is really it's the next level. It's a paradigm shift from the same old to it's literally the next level. It'll take you to new heights. It improves your interviews. It streamlines your investigations. It'll save you time. You're going to know from the get-go who did it, and often when they did it, and why they did it, and all these other things that you're seeing come out in the language about the essay and different things, and the drug usage, and all that is in the language. You just have to know how to mine it. So that's why we're doing it. And I know that there's a lot of you out there that take part in helping to solve cases like finding Summer Wells, Maya Maletti, Suzanne Morphew, and the myriad of others that are out there. And so you guys are key, and it's often, and Chris will tell you this too, it is often the public that solves these cases, that gives us the tips and the leads that we need as investigators to solve these cases. Now I'm retired from I'm not a sworn investigator anymore, but I'm still in the mix, helping investigators and consulting with agencies on current and cold cases. And I'm telling you what, this is key. And so if I can teach you how to do that, and you hear something and you know how to interpret it, and break it down, and you know exactly what they're saying, they don't even information they don't realize they're giving away, you'll know it, and you might be key in solving some of these cases. So yeah, this is why we're doing it.
Yep. So here's what I'm going to do for everybody. As soon as there's a bunch of questions up here, on super chats and that kind of stuff. So if first of all, let me thank all of our mods, Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Four Sons Mom, Melissa Hart, and Miss TJ. We are so grateful that you're able to, keep the chat classy. I know there's people in there, they're going to get in. That's okay, because, my policy here, because we're dealing with a baby, a 5-year-old little girl, is, the chat gets turned off, and YouTube doesn't let comments because we're dealing with a child. So, that's just my policy on the chat, because it's not a place to hate about summer. You can dislike me all day long. I'm good with that. I'm a big boy, okay, not a problem. But, when it comes to this little baby, this is not the forum for that. So if you have that in your heart and you feel that, you're welcome here. But, you need to self-reflect, because it doesn't bother me personally, okay? I've been doing this a couple of weekends, and I've seen worse and I've heard worse. Okay, so you're wasting your time, basically, is what I'm saying. That said, I'm going to go over to Discord, and I'm going to create a channel. Okay, well, actually, the Summer Wells channel is there. If I have not answered your question tonight, get over there and please put in there, your name, and that you had done a super chat, and I will answer your questions, okay? So, Miss Sophia or one of our mods, can you guys put the super chat, or excuse me, the Discord link up so folks can get over there? So Sunday night, Steve, when the Colonel says yes to you on your side, and we will do this again and pick it up. And part 3, by the way, I think, and by the way, we weren't planning on a part 3, but part 3, I think, is really, we're going to get into some pretty interesting things. So in between that, here's homework for everybody, okay? Let's see how many bingo cards we get. And if you don't know what a bingo card is a change behavior. Whoops, oh, there's a change behavior, okay? And as soon as he said, or she says, and they fill in the gaps, that's a change behavior. For the record, again, okay, last time, I am not working for TBI, okay? And yes, I know Dave Roush, okay? They have not asked me to help find Summer in any way, shape, or form. So let's just put that to sleep, please, okay? I've never said I have. I was, and I'm not, okay? I am here, like you, to help find this little girl. I just happen to have a skill set that I think could be beneficial, as if I rode a horse to come in and look around through the fields. Mine just happens to be my career. I do investigate murders, okay, for the foundation. Active. Okay. So those of you that have questions about that can go look at my bio up top. It speaks for itself. Those of you who have a question about the Crow case, I've made it available for you below. Please take advantage of educating yourself, okay? And then you're going to feel better about yourself. So that said, Steve, thank you so much for everything given tonight, your time, your talent. Man, God bless you, brother. I think you're amazing. You've got an amazing skill. And so that said, guys, Steve, do you want to say anything else? I'll give you the last word, as always.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. And I'm just letting you know that my better half gave me the thumbs up for Sunday night. So we're a go for that.
Okay, Sunday night at 7 Central. 7 Central.
So there you go. Bless her
Okay.
heart.
You know, did we not both marry up?
I definitely married up, dude. I don't know about you, but she is way above my pay grade. So
Yep.
definitely.
Same here, buddy. Same here. All right, all our mods, all our channel members, all our friends, all our subs, we love you. Be good to each other. Continue to be good to each other. This world is so mixed up. And boy, the viciousness sometimes of what's inside of people's hearts. You know, wow. That's okay, though, because Steve and I have been dealing with that for a very, very, very long time. And we're used to seeing it. But, you know, if people would just look into the mirror for a little bit, okay, and realize that it has nothing to do with anybody outside of that mirror, they're really going to grow as people. So, as the old saying goes, you know, kill them with kindness. And it all goes away. It really does. It really does. So with that, you guys ready to go to Hawaii? Steve, you ready to go to Hawaii?
I'm ready, buddy.
All right. D-Man, take us to Hawaii. Aloha, everybody. Be good.
Hard working every day. I'm stressed out 24/7, babe.